to Santa Barbara, and it's kind of a pretty drive, so I thought I would shoot a little video along the way. I get a kick out of the television commercials where the people in the commercial, I think it's some insurance company or something, but the people are turning into their parents as they age. And it's kind of funny, but I think I'm guilty of that a bit, in that the older I get, the more I appreciate our traveling lifestyle and nature, and in particular the birds. And my mother, who would have turned 100 this month, she died 5 years ago at 95, but she was a bird lover. And so I guess that's where I get it from. But I love all the birds at this place we're at. And this morning I heard something I've heard once before, but I heard a mockingbird, and in one of its calls that it was mocking was the sound of a frog. And there are frogs here. I hear them at night. It stays warm enough here in California that apparently they don't do a complete hibernation or whatever frogs do. But anyway, I got a kick out of it, and I think those commercials, and I think that I'm probably lucky that to have had a mother that liked traveling, because I certainly have that in my blood. And you know, it's funny because I've always wanted to wander. Even as a little kid, I planned on running away, and I had just a wonderful home life. There was no reason to ever be wanting to run away. But I had that built into me, you know. It was just part of my nature, I think. And so this lifestyle just completely fits me. There's just no two ways about that. I read Huckleberry Finn, and I was so young when I read that book that it really made little sense in a lot of places. You know, it's a very adult book, and I read it again a second time in high school, and of course it made a lot more sense then. But the whole thing of building a raft and running away, man, that was just like, wow, that's incredible. I got to do that, you know. So I built a raft, and we lived in a suburb in Wichita, Kansas called Pleasant Valley, and it was the typical 60s, kind of early 60s residential areas where the houses were, you know, 3 or 4 different floor plans to choose from, and the whole neighborhood was made up of those homes, and they sprung up rapidly. And so there really wasn't much water around there for building a raft. In fact, the only thing that really was right there was a flood control project we called the Big Ditch, which was just an awesome place for a kid. You know, no two ways about that. But so in my wanting to be on an adventure and on my own at whatever, I was probably 7, I suppose, maybe 8. I put together this raft, and really all it was some boards nailed together. And my mom finally got tired of it being piled up outside the house and told me to go get rid of it. And it just so happened that the flood control project was flooded at that time, so there was water in it. And so I took it up there and drug it, you know, like 2 or 3 blocks, put it in the water, and it sunk. I don't know what kind of wood it was, but it went underwater and then just came and came up to the top, to where if you'd stood on it, it wouldn't have held anybody up. You know? It couldn't hold itself up. But anyway, you know, obviously I didn't quite run away, but you know, thanks to my mom, that was always part of me, the wanderlust, and now appreciation of the birds. And around here there are so many, but you know, there's a lot of people around here, and the birds are pretty shy, so I'm not getting the kind of shots that I want to get. But I'll add them into this video as I get some. But this is a beautiful place here, and the oak trees are such an important part, and I'm sure that lots of other things are too, but are such an important part of this ecosystem. And the acorns, though, I'll look up what kind of oak trees these are, but the acorns are very elongated compared to the acorns that we're used to in the Midwest. So they're a little different, almost I don't know what kind of nut they look like. Maybe almost like an almond, But anyway, the birds and the squirrels and everything feed off of those acorns. And this is I'm coming to Paradise Road. And Paradise Road is part of the Los Padres National Forest. And we're going to drive down. Interesting geology here. And the thing to remember when you look at sedimentary rocks is that there's a principle geologists go by called horizontal deposition, and sedimentary rocks are laid flat. And when you see them and they've been folded like this, then you know that there's been a lot of tectonic activity, uplifting and bending of those rock layers. Almost completely folded over on itself. Pretty fascinating. What a little time and force will do to rocks. They're basically plastic over time. But anyway, back to my story. So I probably have, as I've aged, become a bit more like my mother. I think I irritate my wife at times because of my positive outlook. And I don't think I'm overly positive, but she does at times. Because I don't like negativity, And it's not that I'm not negative sometimes, because man, I am. There's no doubt about that. But I tend to look on the positive side, and I'm optimistic. And I think I may have mentioned this in another video, but my sister we had a discussion about the existence of God, and one of the things that I would question about that was why all of the imperfection for a supposedly perfect being, to create all the imperfection and suffering and all the things that go on, that to me indicate that that perhaps this is just the way things are. But her argument was, and I don't know that I would call it an argument, but her point was that maybe the imperfection is just part of perfection, which at first blush is kind of ridiculous, But on the other hand, if you approach life that way and just, hey, shit happens, it's just the way it is. Deal with it. You have to take the bad with the good. And when you expect, that, hey, mechanical things break, it's just the way the way they do. You begin to appreciate when they're actually working rather than being upset when they break, because hey, that's just the way things are. And so part of my life philosophy is exactly that nothing's perfect. Everything, you're gonna have struggles getting stuff to work at times. I'm a computer guy, for crying out loud. Believe me, I've been through some just incredibly troubling things that took a long time to solve, and oh my God, I could tell you stories of mistakes I made that caused just the strangest things to happen, like a routing error, and it only affects a chunk of your network, like one city can't get to a website, but everybody else can. There's different things that you can have happen. But anyway, so I think that my mother was very tolerant of things not being the way you would expect them sometimes, and just kind of went with the flow. And so I'm hoping that I'm kind of like that as I age, because she had an incredible knack of just accepting the transitions of life and gracefully moving from one phase into the next. And